I found out my fiancé had been hiding the truth, and I almost married a stranger. What happened next changed everything. So sit patiently and listen to today's story. The silence before everything broke. My fiancé didn't fight when I cancelled the wedding. That should have scared me more than anything. No yelling. No begging. No dramatic promises to fix everything. Just silence. And that silence is where the story really begins. I met Ethan 4 years ago at a friend's engagement party. Ironic, I know. He was standing near the balcony, pretending to listen to a conversation he clearly wanted no part of. I liked that about him immediately. Quiet confidence. Observant. Safe. At least, that's what I thought. We started dating slowly. No chaos. No red flags. No explosive passion. Just steady, comfortable love, the kind people say is right. When he proposed, it wasn't flashy. No crowd. No camera. Just a quiet dinner and a ring slid across the table while he said, "I don't need a big moment. I just need you." I cried. I said yes. I trusted him completely. The wedding everyone saw. By the time the wedding planning started, our lives were deeply intertwined. Shared apartment. Shared bank account for wedding expenses. Shared routines. Everyone loved Ethan. My parents adored him because he was polite and calm. My friends trusted him because he never crossed boundaries. Even my therapist once said, "He sounds emotionally stable." Looking back, that should have made me pause. Emotionally stable people communicate. Ethan, absorbed. The first crack. 3 weeks before the wedding, something changed. Not dramatically. Not obviously. He became quieter. He started agreeing with everything. Whatever you want. Your call. I'm fine either way. At first, I thought it was stress. Then I noticed how he avoided eye contact when we talked about the future. Where we'd live. Kids. Timing. He nodded. He smiled. He said nothing. The night I realized something was wrong. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. The bed was empty. Ethan was sitting at the kitchen table, lights off, phone glowing in his hands. He didn't hear me. His face wasn't panicked or guilty. It was blank, like someone waiting for something inevitable. "What are you doing?" I asked. He flinched, just slightly. "Couldn't sleep," he said. I noticed he turned the phone screen down immediately. That's when the feeling hit. Not suspicion. Distance. Like he had already left emotionally, and I was the last to know. The question he never answered. The next morning, I asked him directly, "Are you happy?" He paused too long, then said, "Of course." But he didn't ask the question back. The day everything stopped. 5 days later, I was sitting with our wedding planner finalizing the seating chart when something inside me snapped. I imagined standing at the altar, smiling at a man who felt absent. I couldn't breathe. I walked out of the meeting. I went home. Ethan was on the couch, scrolling on his phone. "I think we need to pause the wedding," I said. "Not cancel. Pause." He looked up and said nothing. Not why. Not are you sure. Not let's talk. He just nodded once. That silence felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. The words that ended everything. Later that night, I pressed again. "You don't want to fight for this?" I asked. He looked tired. "I didn't think you'd go through with it," he said quietly. "Go through with what?" "Choosing me." That's when I realized something terrifying. He had already accepted the ending. What he was doing while saying nothing. After I told Ethan we were pausing the wedding, life didn't explode. It stalled. No slammed doors. No crying in separate rooms. No late-night arguments where everything spills out. We continued living together like roommates pretending nothing had changed. That was the first warning I ignored. He acted. Relieved. The day after I cancelled the venue, Ethan made coffee like he always did. Same mug. Same routine. Same quiet. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "I am." That answer didn't sit right. People who are losing their future usually don't sound calm. They panic. They bargain. They cling. Ethan adjusted. The things he stopped doing. Over the next few days, I noticed subtle shifts. He stopped asking about my schedule. Stopped checking when I'd be home. Stopped talking about us entirely. He began referring to things as your apartment instead of ours. When I pointed it out, he shrugged. I'm just being realistic. Realistic about what? The boxes I wasn't supposed to see. 3 days later, I came home early from work. I heard movement in the bedroom. Ethan was kneeling on the floor, packing boxes. Neat. Organized. Labeled. Books. Clothes. Documents. Not emotional packing. Strategic packing. What are you doing? I asked. He didn't jump. Didn't look guilty. Getting ahead, he said. Ahead of what? He finally looked up. Of the end. The conversation that never happened. That night, I tried to talk. Really talk. I feel like you already checked out, I said. He leaned back on the couch, arms crossed. I didn't, he replied calmly. But you're acting like this is already over. He paused, then said something I still hear in my sleep. I don't believe in forcing things that are already decided. I stared at him. Who decided? I asked. He didn't answer. The phone that never left his hand. I started noticing his phone more. Not in a suspicious way. In a guarded way. He didn't hide it. He didn't panic. He simply kept it with him at all times. Bathroom. Shower. Balcony. Screen always dimmed. Notifications muted. Not secrecy. Control. The wedding that was still happening, just not for me. A week later, my friend called. Hey, I thought you cancelled the wedding. I did. Well, your caterer just posted a private event tasting photo, and Ethan is tagged. My stomach dropped. I confronted him that evening. You went to a wedding tasting? I asked. He nodded. Yes. For who? For myself, he said. That was the moment fear replaced confusion. The question I should have asked sooner. Is there someone else? I asked quietly. He didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He said, I didn't plan for it to overlap. Overlap. Like lives were calendar events. The silence finally made sense. That night, after he went to sleep, I sat alone in the dark. And I realized something devastating. Ethan wasn't quiet because he was hurt. He was quiet because he was transitioning. From one future to another. And I was just the loose end he hadn't cut yet. The night I stopped asking questions. After that conversation, I stopped confronting Ethan. Not because I forgave him. Because I understood something important. People who are planning an exit don't argue. They minimize friction. They wait. So I waited too. The phone he left behind. 2 nights later, something rare happened. Ethan fell asleep on the couch. Phone still in his hand. Unlocked. Charging cable stretched across the floor. I stood there for a full minute, arguing with myself. I wasn't the check his phone type. But this wasn't curiosity anymore. This was survival. I didn't go looking for affairs. I didn't open Instagram. Didn't open WhatsApp. Didn't scroll photos. Instead, I opened notes. Because men who plan exits write things down. And there it was. A note titled, After. The list that ended everything. It wasn't long. That made it worse. A move remaining clothes. A change mailing address. A cancel joint accounts. A talk to landlord. A return ring. And the last line. A tell her once everything is settled. Tell her. After. Like I was a notification. Not a person. The message that wasn't meant for me. But the worst part wasn't the list. It was the unsent draft beneath it. A text. Not addressed to me. I know the timing is messy. But the wedding being cancelled actually makes things easier. I just need a little more time to separate cleanly. I don't want drama. My chest felt hollow. Not shattered. Hollow. Who was she? I didn't need a name. The tone told me everything. This wasn't new. This wasn't impulsive. This was coordinated. The realization that made me sick. I finally understood why he stayed quiet, why he didn't fight, why he didn't beg. He didn't want me to change my mind, because my hesitation had solved his problem. I had cancelled the wedding, so he didn't have to. The morning after, when Ethan woke up, I handed him his phone. "I read it," I said. He didn't ask what. He knew. For the first time, his calm cracked. Just slightly. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said. I smiled. Not kindly. "You planned to," I replied. "You just wanted it to be convenient." The line that destroyed any doubt. He looked at me and said, "You were supposed to be temporary confusion, not the one who noticed." That was it. No yelling. No closure speech. Just clarity. The decision I made in silence. That night, while he slept in the bedroom, I slept on the couch. Not because I was weak, because I was done sharing space with someone who had already left. She thought I was the problem. The message that found me. I didn't go looking for her. She found me. 3 days after I moved out, while I was still sleeping on my sister's couch, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Hi. This is awkward, but I think we need to talk." No name. Just that sentence. My stomach dropped, not because I was scared, because I already knew who it was. The woman on the other side. Her name was Lena. She didn't know how to start, so she didn't try. "Ethan told me the wedding was cancelled, because you weren't sure about commitment." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, "He told you that?" A pause. Then, "Yes. He said you were confused, that you needed space, that you kept changing your mind." I almost laughed. Almost. The story he told her. Over coffee the next day, Lena sat across from me, twisting her cup with nervous fingers. She looked normal. Not a villain. Not seductive. Just human. "He said you were emotionally distant," she continued. "That you made him feel invisible." I nodded slowly. "He said the wedding was postponed, not cancelled," she added. "That he was just waiting for you to be ready." I felt something strange then. Not jealousy. Not anger. Relief. Because the picture was finally clear. I was the obstacle, not the fiancé. In Ethan's version of reality. I wasn't his partner. I was a problem to be solved. A delay. A phase. Something to manage quietly until his real life could begin. The moment everything shifted. I didn't insult him. I didn't defend myself. I just pulled out my phone and showed her the note titled after. The list. The draft message. The part where he planned to tell her once everything was settled. Lena's face drained of color. That message. She whispered. That was for me. The truth she never asked for. "He wasn't choosing between us," I said softly. "He was choosing himself." She nodded slowly, tears forming. "He told me you were dramatic," she said. "That you overthink." I smiled sadly. That's what people say about women who notice patterns. The part that broke her. Then she said something that silenced both of us. "He told me," she whispered, "that once you were gone, everything would be peaceful." I closed my eyes, because now I understood the full cruelty. He didn't just betray me. He rewrote me. What she did next. Lena stood up. "I need to go," she said. "Are you going to stay with him?" I asked. She shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "I don't want to be someone's escape plan." The aftermath. That night, Ethan texted me. "Why did you talk to her?" Not what did you say. Why? As if silence was his property. I didn't reply. For the first time, his quiet no longer controlled the room. The day that was supposed to be our wedding. The morning that felt wrong. I woke up before my alarm. Out of habit. For a split second, my body thought this was the day. The dress. The vows. The walk down the aisle. Then reality landed. There was no venue. No guests. No ring. Just silence. And a calendar that hadn't caught up yet. The dress I never wore. The dress was still at the boutique. Returned weeks earlier. But my reflection remembered it. I stood in the bathroom wearing an old hoodie, staring at the woman who almost became someone's afterthought, and I felt something unexpected. Not grief, relief. Where he was. I didn't ask, but I found out anyway. A mutual friend texted me accidentally. Didn't know you and Ethan were doing separate things today. He's in the city with someone. Someone. I didn't need a name. The message I never sent. I opened my notes app, started typing, deleted it, started again, then closed the app. Because closure doesn't come from speaking into the void. It comes from choosing not to. The loneliness he didn't expect. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Ethan. I thought today would feel easier. I didn't respond. But my silence finally meant something. The call that changed everything. At 6:14 p.m., he called. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Why aren't you angry? He asked the moment I picked up. I smiled sadly. Because anger means I still want something from you. He was quiet. Really quiet. Not his usual controlled silence. The empty kind. The truth he couldn't handle. I thought once the wedding was off, he said, everything would make sense. To you, I replied. Yes. That told me everything. What I did instead. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I went out. I had dinner with friends who knew the truth. I laughed, awkwardly at first, then genuinely. And for the first time all day, I felt light. The real ending of the day. At midnight, I went home. Alone. But not lonely. I realized something powerful. The worst day of my life had passed, and I survived it without him. When silence finally fails. The call that came too late. 3 days after the day that was supposed to be our wedding. Ethan showed up at my sister's place. No warning. No apology prepared. Just panic behind his eyes. I messed up, he said. Not I hurt you. Not I lied. Messed up. I almost laughed. The silence he lost control of. 4 years, Ethan's power came from saying nothing. From waiting. From letting other people fill the gaps with hope. But silence only works when someone is listening. I wasn't anymore. What he finally admitted. He sat on the edge of the couch like a guest who had overstayed his welcome. I thought if I stayed quiet, things would work themselves out, he said. I didn't want to choose. I thought time would. I nodded. Time did choose, I replied. Just not you. The truth he couldn't escape. Lena left him. Completely. No explanation. No goodbye. The way he deserved. And the wedding, my absence, had exposed him. Friends stopped calling. His story didn't hold. Silence stopped protecting him. The one thing he asked for. I just want to understand, he said. Why didn't you fight for us? I looked at him carefully. Because I wasn't confused, I said. I was disrespected. That was the difference. The moment I walked away, he reached for my hand. I stepped back. I don't hate you, I said. But I don't trust you. And love can't live without trust. He nodded slowly, like someone finally reading the fine print. Who I am now. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm awake. I no longer chase clarity from people who benefit from confusion. I no longer wait for silence to speak. The final truth. He stayed quiet because silence kept his options open. I left because silence closed my heart. Epilogue. Sometimes people don't show you who they are by what they say, but by what they never say. And once you see that, you can never unsee it. END.